Because what's going to happen today, we're going to talk to parents about the behaviors and expectations that you have in reference to your children. And aspect 2 is going to deal with juniors and seniors and your expectations, because you have a lot of expectations that you must do as well in order to be successful. We're going to talk about what it takes to have good work ethics and academic rigor for aspect 3. Aspect 4 is going to focus on post-high school options, and there's a lot of them that you may be able to engage upon. And then we're also going to take you through this website. It's our website through our organization called the Together Organization. And it's a website that is going to be used as a resource that you can use today and throughout your time in high school and even when you go to college. There's a lot of good stuff on it that you will be able to use. Aspect 5 is going to be preparation assessment. Those are going to be SAT, ACT, and your ASVAB, all of which are going to be required and necessary for you to be able to move on to the next level in your journey of academics and or the workforce in your careers. Aspect 6, we're going to focus on extracurricular activity importance. And aspect 7, we're going to do resume development. We're going to give you an opportunity to actually work on trying to develop a resume today. We're also going to make sure that on aspect 8, that the college university selection process is addressed, because that's very important that you understand how you're selected, because sometimes we're not always clear. We're going to make sure that you understand that aspect today. As far as paying for college, that's a big one for parents really and students, but mainly for parents, because we all want our kids to go places, we want our kids to be successful, but sometimes the ability to pay for it is a sticking point. So we want to help you to understand why you don't have to have that as a sticking point, but as a means of clarity as to what you need to do so that you can understand how your kid can go to the school he or she would like to go to, and also have the money to pay for it. And then aspect 10, that's going to be where we take you through the application and admissions process. Now, a lot of times we do all these things, but when we get to the part of how to apply for the schools, we're sometimes not exactly clear. So we're going to try to clean that up. And in addition to that, we're going to make sure that you're prepared. So with all that stated, we're going to go ahead and get started right now. All right, now we're going to start out with our with the parents. All right, we're gonna talk to you about the notes that you're going to receive, but we're going to start out with the parents. So right now, Mr. McPhee is going to give you an opportunity to get the seminar notes. So those are going to be shared with you in the chat. So once you get those, please download those, and you can utilize those while we're going through this meeting today. But we felt that would be very important and necessary for you to have those notes so you can actually use them to navigate with us as we go through this journey today. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to be able to download those if you would like, but we have shared them already in the chat. So at this point in time, we need you to just go ahead and download them on your computer. And we're going to move to the parents. All right. So parents' behaviors and expectations. Aspect 1, because I'm going to say this to you, you are the reason that our students are having the opportunity to be successful parents. But sometimes as our kids get older, we have to understand how to change our focus. And so what we're going to do right now, we're going to give you an opportunity to view a video. And I want you to just really listen to what they're saying about us as parents. And then we're going to talk a little bit about it after the video ends. Thank you. We're going to let you watch the video at this time.
When a child is learning to walk, that's the last time we allow ourselves to be overjoyed by the fact that they're trying and failing and trying again. Of course, it's hard to see them fall, but somehow we know that this is an essential task for them to practice, 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 and ultimately perfect. Well, somehow we've forgotten that every single other skill in life is acquired the same way. While I was Dean of Freshmen at Stanford University, we began referring to college students as kids or children, and those terms would have not been used in prior decades. Too many students seemed to be lacking agency in their own lives, and I thought, this is not good for them, and it's not good for all of us at a societal level either. Initially, helicopter parenting appears to work. As a kid, you're kept safe. You're given direction. You might get a better grade because that parent is arguing with the teacher. But we parents, we end up getting in our kids' way. We deprive the kid of the chance to show up in their own lives, take responsibility for things, be accountable for outcomes. What we've got to do is teach our kids all of these things, whether it's cross the street or make a meal on the stove or remember to put your belongings in your backpack. There's a 4-step method for teaching kids skills. Step 1, you do it for them. Step 2, you do it with them. Step 3, you watch them do it. Step 4, they can do it independently. If we don't do this, we will have among us a young adult population that doesn't know how to #adult. It becomes a community problem. It becomes a crisis in leadership. You have to ask, well, who's going to run the schools? Who's going to run our nonprofits? Who's going to run the government? Who's going to lead our families? Kids have to be able to make their own mistakes growing up. Life is about having confidence that if you took the wrong path, you can get on the right path. That if you fall down, you can get back up. You know, the moment they learn to walk, they're walking away from us. And it feels terrifying, but as paradoxical as it may sound, our job as parents is, like it or not, to put ourselves out of a job.
When you watch that video, you know they're talking about parents. They're talking about helicopter parents. And what is a helicopter parent? Is a parent who decides to do everything for their children. You have juniors and seniors now. You have done everything that you have needed to do thus far in order to get them prepared in terms of being able to have proper study skills. You have done what you need for them to understand that there are right ways and wrong ways to do things. You talk to them about everything you need to talk to them about. But as juniors and seniors, it is time for them to take responsibility, a lot of responsibility for their actions. And more important than that, for their education. So parents, we encourage you always to be there for your children. That's what you should do. But we also need for you to do something else, parent. We need you to let them fly. It's just like a bird in a nest. You know, eventually birds, they push the bird out and they'll let them fly. And that's what we need for you to do. We need you to let your children fly. So through this journey, you have a major part in making sure that you watch on the outside looking in, to ensure that they're doing what they need to do and that they're following what you have instilled in them. But the students have to take an initiative to take care of their education at this time. So with all that stated, we're going to now talk about what the expectations are for students. Now, as a junior and or senior at this time, you have a lot of expectations, students. And those expectations are pretty simple. You do know that you have spent from K until now in school. Your parents have done what they needed to do to prepare you for your academic journey. But you have to make sure at this time that you have done what they have instilled in you. And part of that is making sure you have quality grades. And so you need to have quality grades. And so that means that if you're walking around and your grades are not what they need to be, then that's your responsibility to bring them up. As we get closer now, we know at this time, Westover High School students, we know that there's going to be a situation on October 6th where grades are due for the first 9 weeks. And it is each student's responsibility to ensure that he or she does not have any missing assignments. It is each junior and senior responsibility to ensure that he is fighting or she is fighting to make sure that there are all A's and B's in the class. It is not always easy, but we're not trying to make it easy. We're trying to make it right. We're trying to make sure that we're successful in school so that we can go to the next level. So that's why when we look at our grades, we have to take the initiative. We have to work hard in class, and if you are still up a little bit late because you want to get a better grade, then you stay up late to get a better grade. And you need to understand that, you know, you need 2 levels of recommendation. Well, why do you need 2 levels of recommendation? Because I'm going to say this to you right now. You need people who believe in you outside of your family to be able to write a letter of recommendation when you're saying that this person is an okay kid. This young man or this young lady has done what he or she needed to do to be successful. And because of that, I am willing to recommend this person for his or her next journey in life. So I say 2 because let's say one person may focus on your outside aspect and the other person may focus on your meaning that your volunteer aspect, or I know you as a church member, but the other person may be able to talk about your academics. And then when you combine those 2 levels of recommendation, you know, you may have a great understanding, or someone looking at that may have a great understanding of who you are as an individual. So it's nice to have, and I would be a little over the board, and I would just say, hey, I want 3 letters of recommendation, because then I have options, so that depending on what they're asking me for, whether it's in an application or whether it's a job for looking for a job, I have a recommendation of someone, 3 people, 2 people who were able to say, hey, Sam Mack is an okay person. So we need to have letters of recommendation. We're asking that you have 2. All right, SAT, ACT. Now, a lot of times parents have this misconception, and students have this misconception because we're not always clear. If you have already taken Algebra 2, Advanced Algebra, whatever the course you have taken, and you are an avid reader, and you like English, and you are articulate, you understand vocabulary well, and you're able to read with an analytical mind, you can take the SAT. You can take it in the 10th grade year. You can. And if you don't believe me, there's something called Duke Scholars, and those are 7th graders taking the SAT. So there's not a real date and time, but there's an ability for you to understand that you are ready for it. And parents, if a child if your child tells you, hey, I'm ready for the SAT, and they have taken Algebra 2, don't hold them back. Let them move forward. Encourage them. Make sure that they understand. If you feel that you're ready, because there's, contrary to popular belief, you can take the SAT more than one time. It's a combination of scores. And as we go a little bit further on in this conversation today, we're going to talk about the SAT and the ACT, and we're going to let you know that, it's okay to take it when the child feels he or she is ready. Don't hold them back. And young men and young ladies who are juniors and seniors, make sure that you don't scare yourselves. The test is not as bad as you think it is. It's really not. We're going to talk about the difference a little bit later, but you should take it if you're ready to take it. And taking it, if you're scared, don't be scared. It's going to be a great test, and you'll probably do it better than you think you can. And college essays. Now, a lot of times writing essays, you cannot write an essay the way that you text, or sometimes even the way that you talk. The college essay is a good opportunity for someone who may not know who you are to be able to ascertain who you are. So writing that college essay is going to be imperative for you to do a great job on it. And we're going to tell you what you should and should not do in the essay. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And you also need to have a resume. Now, that resume is going to incorporate a lot of what you have right now. It's going to incorporate your grades. It is going to incorporate what you're doing, what you have done thus far in school. It's going to incorporate a lot of different aspects, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But you need to have a resume. The one other reason why we put these up here for you today, we have the Infinite Scholars. Now, we do the Infinite Scholars here at Western. We do it well here at Western. We have had over millions of dollars upon millions of dollars that our students have been able to receive. And we've been very blessed to have those students to go on to some of those colleges in which they receive the scholarship funds for. Now, we do not know how the Infinite Scholarship Fair is going to work this year. We know in Atlanta it is going to be virtual, but in Jacksonville, they're still saying that it's going to be in person. But it's still up in the air. But you will need these items that we have listed here so that you'll be able to attend the Infinite Scholarship Fair. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to talk about these a little bit later and more in depth. Now, when we talk about aspect 3. Aspect 3, work ethics and academic rigor. A lot of times we have students who don't quite understand what's the difference between a rigorous course. And rigor is not hard classes. Rigor is the challenge that you receive based upon your ability level. If it's challenging to you based upon your ability level, then that is a rigorous course for you. It doesn't matter what your friend is taking. It doesn't matter what your girlfriend is taking, your boyfriend is taking. It doesn't matter about that. And it doesn't matter necessarily what you want to take. If you want to be successful in academics and education, you must challenge yourselves. You must reach out and look for those opportunities to do better and to extend yourselves. Because when colleges when you do that application process, they want to see how well you can extend yourselves. And if you're taking the easiest classes on campus, then that is not going to show that you have extended yourself. And when you start talking about that resume, you're going to see where the resume and your transcript going to speak a lot about who you are, and the essay in some cases. But if you want to take rigorous course, this is what we're talking about. You should challenge yourself, like we said. And I know we have great professional school counselors here So they're going to ask you if you need to take an honors class, then they're going to put you in an honors class. If you need an AP class, they're going to give you an AP class. And if you're dual enrolled, we have Miss Griffin here today, and she has put tons of students in dual enrollment at Albany Technical College. And then on Albany State side, we'll put a lot of kids in there too. We have a lot of kids too doing a lot of different outside of the norm programs. And those kids are challenging themselves. They're taking rigorous courses that are going to, when they look at as a college, they see that information, they're going to say, wow, this kid is really going to be above and beyond. And that's what you all need to do. College exam students transcript. Now, let me just say this to you. You need to be aware at all times of how your grades look. And the transcript is there, yes, and you can request it. You know, when you become a senior in this time, you can move on to college. But if you don't know your grades prior to that transcript, then you're in trouble. You should know what your grades are. If you know your birthday, you should know your GPA. I'm gonna say that again. If you know your birthday, the birth date, the day in which you were born, you should know your transcript, because that has been your lifelong lessons of how well you have done academically. And you need to know that GPA is, because the colleges are going to need to know that when you decide to apply. But then you got people who are overkill. If it's not in you, and parents, just go to you, and this goes to students too. If it is above my realm of understanding, at a point where it has caused me undue stress, that is because I am not capable of that level at that time. It's okay to respect your limits. Still going to apply yourself, and you're going to work hard, but we need to be cognitive of where our kids are. And students, you need to be cognitive of where you are. And it talks about balance, maturity, and discipline. A lot of times, every kid is not going to be able to go to dual enrollment because he or she may not be disciplined enough. They may not be mature enough to be on a college campus, and that's okay. Take the classes, take the AP classes on campus, that's fine. But you just have to know your limits, and you have to know where you are as an individual. And if you know those things, it's going to make you a better student, and it's going to make you a better person in the long run. Now, but you have to stay determined. Now, when we start talking about determination is very key, because a lot of times, even with the times we're in right now, and that's the elephant in the room, and I haven't said it yet, but we understand there's a lot of things that a lot of people are going through right now through this pandemic. And we know it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's actually kind of challenging in some cases. But we have to stay determined. We have to continue to try to make sure that we do everything and anything and all things that we can do to ensure that we are able to move on to the next level with fidelity. You have to understand that in Albany, Georgia is a small area compared to the whole United States. You're competing against a whole bunch of people, folks. As a junior and senior, every year that you're in school, you are in competition with your peers. So since you are in competition, you want to win the race. So the way that you win the race is by always preparing adequately. You practice what you want to succeed in. So what we're going to say to you today, you have to make sure that you're excited about learning. You like to learn. You want to do whatever it takes for you to be a successful learner. But you have to make sure that you give all those opportunities a chance to blossom in you if you have some difficulties in life. So, or in difficulty in reaching some of your goals, but you just got to keep pushing forward. And you got to, again, stay determined. Now, aspect 4, post-high school options. So now what I would like to do right now is we're going to share with you a newsletter, and I'm going to split this up with Staff Sergeant Stewart, but I'm going to talk about the first part, and then Staff Sergeant Stewart is going to be able to talk to you a little bit about, what you should do and what you should be doing in terms of your post-high school options. All right, now again, this is a nice opportunity. This is what we share with our Together organization members, and what it is, it's a newsletter. It's a newsletter that you can use throughout the year. You don't have to. It's not going to be something that you have to get monthly, but it's something that has a lot of information that you can share with your parents, and you all can talk about and see what it is that you all need to kind of look into to make sure you're prepared. If you look at the bottom of it, there's a part that talks about the SAT and the ACT. And on there, it even give you the opportunity to click on that link so that you can always just go and visit the SAT and ACT. If you have any questions, our guidance counselors here, our school counselors here are outstanding, but at the same time, you can be proactive and you can look at this information for yourself. All you have to do is click on those links, and those links should take you to where you need to go. All right, so the first one, College Board, is going to take you to the SAT, and then the ACT is going to be the one that ACT ordered. So you can always click on those at the bottom if you would like to use them, but make sure you keep it electronic. All right, now, if you look at the top of this sheet, you see that we talked a little bit about, talked to you a little bit about the SAT. Do apologize for that. We had some, unforeseeable that we had people working on the internet today. But we're going to make it rock and roll, because that's what we do here at Westover High School. We make it work, and we're going to make this work. I thank you all for staying, and we're going to continue with the presentation now. I hope that what we're going to try to do right now, we're going to try to see if we can get you that. We're going to try to get you that newsletter. But if we're unable to get you the newsletter, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I just need a thumbs up. Great. Okay, good. So we're back and running. We're just trying. We're gonna make it work now, because that's what we do here at Westover again. So now we're gonna go ahead and talk about that newsletter. The newsletter is going to be very essential, because, like I said, you can put the SAT and ACT information in there. But not only can you put the SAT and ACT work and information there, you can go a step further. You can also start talking about the FAFSA. Now, moms, dads, young men, young ladies, the FAFSA is your lifeline. You can be the smartest child in the world, you have the highest GPA in the world, but if you do not fill out that FAFSA, you cannot accept or receive a scholarship. You can be the best athlete in the world, but you have to fill out a FAFSA. You got to fill out a financial aid, free financial aid form, because that's for student aid, because that is what's going to be able to let them determine what your income level is. If it's a needs-based, and if it's not a needs-based, it could just be a scholarship because of your ability. So you have a scholarship that you are given, but because of your ability, either academically or athletically. And then you have merit-based, because based upon, you have done well as an athlete, you have done well, as an athlete and or as an academic person, but mainly as an academic person, and you have some kind of skills. It could be you could be the top football player and the highest GPA in your school. You could be number 1, number 2 in classes, all those valedictorian. You could be a lot of different things. So when you start talking about merit-based, that's, that's good, but you also have to always remember that the financial aid form must be completed first. It must be completed first, because you want to make sure that you are able to let the schools know, because the schools are going to be able to determine your needs based upon the financial aid form. So so you have information about that. And sometimes, if you're like Mr. Mackey, Mr. Mackey was one of those kids who, for whatever reason, he didn't have that much money. So since he didn't have that much money, what he had to do, he had to try to get a waiver. A waiver is simply just an opportunity for you to be able to receive money, and it's called the fee waiver. It's a fee waiver, because I had to get a fee waiver for like ACT and SAT, because I did not have the funds to do that. And you look on the form, that's also on there too. But the financial aid would make that determination whether or not you need money because you don't have the income, or because your ability. That's all is part of the FAFSA. So what we're going to do today, though, we are going to spend a little time. We're going to get you moving on financial aid form, but this is just a general overview right now of all this information. So we're going to move down a little bit, but we're going to take you to the part where we start talking about maybe like service hours. This also in here. The service hours part is going to tell you a little bit about, hey, I want to get some service hours. I want to help out the community. I work at my church. I do a lot of different things, and I do it, but I don't get paid for it. Well, some colleges like to see that you have given back to your community, and they want you to have documented hours. So it's just my general practice, not as a rule of thumb, it's not even a law, but it's just a general rule of thumb. If you can identify 30 documented hours where you have actually did things in the community that were supportive of the community, and someone was willing to sign for it, and it was part of an organization, and they indicated that you work for whatever the volunteer service hours are for, then that's good. You want to have at least, you want to try to get 30. 30 is a great number, but it's not really required at least in Dougherty County, it's not required. but in some areas it is required. So in those areas where it is required, they may say you need to have 40, once you graduate. So I'll say 30 as a means. But now moving forward, what we want to talk about now is we have our great Staff Sergeant Stewart. Now, Staff Sergeant Stewart, if you look at the rest of this form, he's talking about destination, the workforce, the military, and they also talk about college. But what I would like to happen right now is Staff Sergeant Stewart is going to come talk to you all in reference to what you need in terms of, what are some options when you get out of high school, whether it's going to college and or going to the workforce and or going to the military. Here's Staff Sergeant Stewart.
So my main recommendation is to figure out what exactly that you're interested in. Obviously, at this point in your life, some of you guys are 16 to 18 years old. So it's pretty hard for anyone to say, what do you want to do until you're possibly over 50 years old. However, what I see a lot and what I would like to limit more is that people have a plan. I'll talk to a child or a young man or woman, and what they'll say is that, okay, well, I'm going to go to school to do this. And then I'll follow on with the question of, okay, well, how much does tuition cost, or what school am I interested in going to and attending, or, what else is required to make that plan happen? And usually when I see a plan fall short, it's because they didn't fully look into everything that might be before them. So as a recruiter, one thing I will say right up front, I'm not biased. In addition to that, I know that the military isn't for everyone, and it's in the same light as college isn't for everyone. However, I think the most important part that I guess we're trying to hammer home today is look into all your resources, because when it comes to school, sometimes, success isn't a straight line. You have to go maybe around left or right to find what works for you to eventually have your plan to become a reality. And so in regards to prerequisites for the military, and this is including all branches, you have to be 17 years old or older. If you're 17, you're going to require parental consent. Just talking to the parents and make sure that they're fully on board on that possible decision. In addition to that, you're going to have to pass what's called the ASVAB. That's the Armed Service Vocation Aptitude Battery, which essentially is a vocation test, which it breaks down the main parts to find your percentile is arithmetic reasoning, mathematical knowledge, word knowledge, and then paragraph comprehension. So it runs very similar to the ACT. So if you do great on the ACT, there's a big possibility that you're pretty good when it comes down to the ASVAB. So one thing to know is there's no zeros on the ASVAB. There's no 100. It's a percentile score. So what that means is that 50th percentile will be the median. Essentially, if you're below a 50, then unfortunately, the median being the average, you'll be below average. The thing is that you always want to be as high in the percentile as possible to give you more options and more availability to programs. So once you're actually in the military, it can open up a lot of doors. Me, myself, I am an example of, college isn't the only route in regards to becoming successful and a productive citizen in society. I have a trade, which is a high quality trade of being a geospatial intelligence analyst. We also offer welding, electrician work, accounting, and things of that nature that kind of open up the door and beef up your resume once your service is over with. Because one thing is for certain, whether you do your 4 years, earn your benefits, or you do 20, you have to get out at some point. And the reality of it is that a lot of these could be used as a stepping stone to enhance what you have. And so that's about as much as what I have to say about it now. I'll probably cover a little bit more later. Thank you.
Awesome. So we know, as Staff Sergeant Stewart pointed out to you, there's other options out there for you, and so you may decide that, hey, I want to go on to college, or I may want to decide to go to the military. And everything up to this point we have talked about has really been just like the first 4 aspects were just to kind of like let you know what your baseline, your bottom line, your expectations are, basically. But now we're going to move into we're going to move into a different phase. We're going to talk to you about this, and I say little, but this website that we have. This website that I'm going to show you has a lot of information on it, and it's going to be information that you can definitely use in your journey, whether it's academic, athletic, or a military journey. It's going to all be there for you. This is our website. You'll see that it's www.togetherinfo.weebly.com, and this website is a website we've been using for over 20 years. We have updated many times, and we try to make sure that it's a current website, because as a current website, we want to make sure that it's something that you can always use. So we're not going to talk about the homepage. You can look at the homepage. It's nice. We work on it. That's good, but that's not what we're here about. About us, we're Together Organizations, a young men's organization that focuses on academic excellence and leadership. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is that we're not even talking about the history. We have been in existence since 1999. That's not what you need to know today. What you need to know today is those little tabs that go below that, the ASVAB and the military. Now, Staff Sergeant Stewart kind of addressed that a little bit, but just click on it for, we're going to click on the ASVAB for just a second. And when we click on the ASVAB tab, now the good thing about it, if we look at the applicants, what it does, it gives us the opportunity to understand. It gives us the opportunity to understand that what about the score. It tells us about the preparing for the ASVAB. It does all those different things. All right, and then so it talks with counselors and educators and researchers, all the information there. So if you ever wanted to get a little more information, more in-depth information about ASVAB, you can click on that tab and it will take you there. All right, thank you. So we're going to go back to that site, and we're going to look at assessments for colleges. All right, so that we can look at ACT. All right, when we look at ACT, one thing that you want to notice about this ACT, there's a lot of things here for you. It's talking about test prep. Now, with the test prep, it will actually give you an opportunity to do a couple of things. You know, if you look down at the center of the screen, you see where it says register for the ACT. So that's there for you. You can register for the ACT. It's that simple. If you need to get a waiver, you will see your guidance counselor first. And once you see the guidance counselor, then they can get you a waiver. And then you can go to this website and you can register for the ACT. It's right there for you. In addition to that, they also have test prep. We're not going to go in there, but I want you to kind of like look at this. But if you if we were to click on the test prep, and it says it has like test prep, we have the study guides, you know, it has all that information on you. Now the ACT is not always as nice to you as the SAT in terms of practice tests. But it does give you free, because I'm about free. If I can get free, I'm loving free. Free is always the best thing in the world. So if I can get something free, then I'm happy. Well, the SAT does that for you. So we're going to look at the SAT, but ACT, and let's talk a little bit about ACT before we move on. With the ACT is pretty much similar to what you would expect to have in your high school courses. It's going to look similar to that. In terms of the SAT, is more of a logical test. It's more, it's more one of those tests that, you got to really think way outside the box. You may not have seen some that work in a classroom setting, but it's the application of those skills that you have already learned. So that's the difference between those two tests. All right, so that's that. So we're going to go back to we're going to go to look at the ACT now, the SAT, I'm sorry. When we look at the SAT now, as we said, the SAT, again, they show you how they have a lot of different opportunities on here for you, but they also have the PSAT information for 10th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and that goes back to what I had said to you. They have the PSAT, the SAT, they have a lot of different options on this website. But if you go down a little bit further, if you go down, they show you how to print your ticket, they let you register for the test, they do all the good things for you. And then if you just keep on scrolling, they also have the test dates. But this is what I like. It says practice. So if we were to click on the practice page, all right, free SAT practice. And as I said, it says start practicing. So if you were to click on that, it kind of like gives you a little, it just gives you a little bit of information. So if you were to start practicing, there's a couple of things that they can let you take you to Khan Academy, where they can actually let you do that. But there's also on this website that we did not quite click on at this time, but we will. But I want you to navigate through this so you can understand. There's also a place on here where they actually give you a practice test. They give you a practice test, and that practice test that they give you is actually going to be a test that is going to mimic what the real SAT looks like. But I want you all to navigate through this, parents and students, because I want you to spend the time looking at this information. So that was the SAT and ACT. But if we were to go back to that website again, because we're gonna discuss this in a little more in depth. But if you were to look at that website again, there's another little tab that we have on there, and that tab talks about scholarships and schools. Okay, if you were to, if you want to think about which college I want to go to, that's there for you. Scholarship information. If you were to click on that, we're not going to click on it, but you have Peterson's. That's a good website. It talks about helping you develop majors. The NCAA, if you're an athlete, you want to go to that site because that'll tell you the rules and regulations. And I will say this to our juniors. Juniors, if you are planning on becoming an athlete to go on off to college next year, it is essential for you in the month of August of your senior year to have completed your NCAA eligibility. That's very essential because that will allow you to be able to get recruited if you decide that that's what you want to do athletically. I will say we had two of my Form Together members currently right now in college on full scholarships because of the fact that they did what they need to do with the NCAA, and when it came to recruitment and everything else, they were set and ready for it. So let's make sure we always do that. Now, scholarships info, if you were to click on this website, the scholarship info, scholarship 200, scholarship 200. The good thing about this, if you were to scroll down and you were to scroll down to number 16, but before we get to 16, I want you to look at these scholarships. There's the Jackie Robinson, which is a huge scholarship. They have Fast Web at number 2. They have Fine Aid, which is also an opportunity where you can get scholarships. The Gates Millennium, I don't think we'll be able to do that anymore, but that's on there. The McDonald's scholarship, that is there. And if you go down, Broke Scholar Scholarship, they have a lot of different scholarships, but we're going to go down to 16. If you go down to 16, I want you to click on 16 for us. At your leisure, you can click on 16. And I want you all to do this for me, parents. I want you right now to push start here for the FAFSA. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that you look at this, because next month, we're not going to wait until January. We can fill out the FAFSA in October. And so we're going to be more than ready to fill out that FAFSA in October. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask that you do this now. We're going to ask that we're going to spend maybe like 5 to 7 minutes, and we want you just to do this right now. We want you to get an ID. We want you to get an ID for the FAFSA. So you're going to go right now. You're going to go through the process, read it real quick, and then we're going to give you about 5 minutes to look it over, and we just want you to get started on it so that you can see how the process looks because you can always come back to it later. But we want you just to get an ID. We want you to get an FSA ID, because you get your FSA ID when October comes next month, you will be ready to fill out the FAFSA for your senior. So let's do that right now. We'll give you 5 minutes to do that, okay? Just to get started, to navigate through it. Okay, that was a quick 5 minutes, and it was a good 5 minutes. And I know some of y'all may be looking at this ID saying, "Wow, this is a lot of information." And it's not. It's good that you do it now though, because now that you have your ID, if you have already completed it, if you have your ID, the great thing about it is when October the 1st, 2020 comes, you will be ready to fill out your financial aid form. And I would challenge every parent to make sure that you do that on October 1st. And your student, now the juniors and seniors, they also need to get an ID number, because the ID number that they have, that FSA ID number, they would use that every year that they are in college. Every year, they just keep you that same. That would be their log. That would give them the login information for every year. So when you do it now, you're getting one step ahead in the game. And we want you all to win this game. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have done that already. So great. So we're gonna move forward now. Okay, we're gonna move forward now. So I'm just gonna say this to you. You had an opportunity to do your to look at the website. We want to go back to the website for just a little bit, because I want to show you something else on that website that is going to be very valuable. The scholarship info. We're going to click on that now. If you were to look at the scholarship info, we go down to scholarships in schools. We're going to scroll down, and when we scroll down, you got to start a free. We're not going to do it, but we have a start your free search for colleges and for scholarships rather. You can go down there and you need to do that. You need to go ahead and register for that, because that's going to give you an opportunity to get matched up with scholarships. All right. If you were to fill it out, here's what you need to see. You know, it's easy to fill out. It's easy to fill out. All you have to do is just include that information, and then based upon the information that once you sign up for it, you will be able to get matched for college scholarships throughout the year. And that's going to be done for junior, senior, south, whatever grade level, because they have different types of scholarship for different types of students. All right, so we're going to go back out and we're going to scroll back down. All right, and then we scroll back down and we go back there. And that's just the next step. So we're not going to fill it out now, but this is something you can do at your leisure. Okay, so if we were to look further down, I mean, they tell colleges is too expensive. Yeah, that's fine. But like I said, they're going to get matched for scholarship. That's another thing. Free college search. We're going to click on this one real quick. So when we click on the free college search, I want you just to look at something for us right now. This is going to be very valuable information. If I'm in the state of Georgia, which we are, we would click on Georgia. All right. And so when I click on Georgia, we're going to see some people get this part missed. So we're going to go past that part, and we're going to start looking at colleges. The great thing about this website, and since we're in Albany, Georgia, we want to look at Albany State University. Okay, I'm a proud graduate of the Albany State University for my undergraduate, so I'm proud of the school, and we're going to look at it. So we're going to just look at it right now. And when we look at it, we notice something. It tells us that is college type. It tells us that, and you can do this for every single college, any college in the state, in the state of Georgia, and in the United States. It will give you this information for every single college. So this is very valuable information as you pursue your goals to attend a college or university of your liking, and ones that you qualify for. So if you look at a college, we're going to look at Albany State. It's a four-year public school. If you were to live out of state, then what would happen in out of state situation? It would be $16,000. But you know, we're not out of state, so that would not apply to us. And they also tell us it's a Georgia school, because that's the state it's in enrollment. They tell us that there's a total of 6,000. We have over 6,000 students in this school. So that's a great thing about this little website. It also gives you how many students are currently enrolled. The graduation rate. Now, if you look at your graduation rate now, that 8.3 seems a little bit low, but that 8.3 is not as bad as it may seem. There's a lot of schools that have similar or maybe worse graduation rate, and that's for 4 years. Sometimes at your HBCUs, and that's even at your non-HBCUs, you may have a situation where you may see that the 4-year graduation rate is kind of low, but then the 5-year graduation rate, the 6-year graduation rate is a little bit different. So now, but we're going to look at tuition for in-state. If you were to go in-state, you see that the Albany State will cost you $5,934. All right, and then the same thing for in-district. So all that's the same. And then the good part about this, and this is what you're going to need to look at too, for any school that you decide to go to, it has the ACT, it has the 15 and 18. Well, let me tell you what the 15 and 18 represent. The 15 represents the lowest 25% of students who actually registered to attend Albany State University, 25% of them have a 15%, I'm sorry, 15 on the ACT as their score. That's the lowest 25%. That's the average score. But on the ACT, on the top 75% of students who actually attend Albany State, their average is an 18, okay? On the SAT, the bottom 25% of students who decide to attend Albany State University, they usually have like their average is a 750 on the SAT. But in terms of the SAT, the top 75%, they usually have a 900. Now, let me just say what that means. That's the top 75%. I tell kids all the time, I tell students, and I'm telling this to you too, parents, and when you're looking out for colleges, you want to make sure that if you're looking for possible in-house scholarships, you want to make sure that you understand their score has to be at or above the top 75%. So, for example, if you were to go to Albany State, not saying they do this, but I'm just saying, using this as an example. If you were thinking about going to Albany State and you even thought that you're going to possibly get any kind of scholarship funds from Albany State, then you better have above an 18 on the ACT. If you thought, for example, that you may get you want to get any kind of scholarship funds for SAT, for Albany State, based upon your SAT score, you better have above a 900. And so what I'm saying to you is this: if your score is lower than a 900 or 8 on the SAT and lower than an 18 on the ACT, you may more than likely not qualify for some of their in-house scholarships. Now, you still can get financial aid, but you would not possibly qualify for some of those in-house scholarships that some schools have. I'm just using Albany State because this is our local school, and we want to always promote our local universities. All right, with that stated, now we're going to click on the Albany State University. So we're going to go a step first, because you're going to need to do this a little bit later on, really soon. If you look at admissions, well, let's not look at admissions. Yes, we're just going to look at the overview. We're going to go back to the overview. And when we look at the overview, you see what it has there. It talks you about all similar to the information that we had, but it talks to you about how much it's going to cost, but it also breaks down room and board. It's always important that we understand that. So when you say that the school costs $5,934, if your child is living on campus, you have to add an additional $8,980 for living on campus for room and board. And I would say that you really need to pay attention to that when you're looking at schools, because a lot of times, if you do not look at the total cost, you may get disappointed and not realize how much the school actually costs. So I always make sure you look at the in-state cost if it's an in-state school, and if it's an out-of-state school, like say if it's out-of-state school, you pay $60,000 for this school, and then you have to pay the additional money for room and board, and they also have like other expenses that may add up to. So you just always want to look at the total amount. But if we were to go to enrollment, we don't need to go to enrollment. We want to look at admissions first. I'm sorry. If you were to go to admissions is where we start talking about what I talked about a few minutes ago. And you can do this for all schools. I just want to make sure that we go over this, so you need to know how to do this when you start doing your searches for schools. All right. It tells you how many people applied when those are your applicants. It also, any school is going to tell you how many people are full-time, part-time, but the number of people to the SAT, number of people and percent to the SAT, percent to the ACT. And so if you go down, this is what I was talking about earlier about the 25% and 75%. All right, now, even though you may qualify for that 75%, you have to understand that it's broken down into two categories, okay? They got the verbal and then also the math. All right, so if you look at the verbal, let's say I'm in the top 75% and I met the threshold of 900, but if my verbal score is, let's say, a 450, and my math score is a 450, then yes, I met the 900. I met the 900 threshold, but the only problem is I did not meet the threshold for the verbal. So you also, when you're looking at that top 75 percentile, you also have to look at each individual score, the verbal and the math. You just can't look at the cumulative score. You have to look at the breakdown of each of those scores. So that's going to be very important for you to understand that. And same thing with ACT, there's a breakdown. You have to follow the breakdown. So so we're going to go back up a little bit, and we're going to look at the next tab, next to it, which is we're not going to look at enrollment. And then we're not the grad rates. We're going to look at grad rates only because I want you to see this. If you look at, so we talked about 4-year grad rate for this particular school is 8.3. But if you look at the 5 years, you get 29.9 student graduate. And then the kids who are 6-year students, then you have a 35. So it keeps going up. So that's generally a nice trend for a lot of schools. A lot of schools do that, you know, for different reasons. That the 4-year graduation rate may be a little bit lower, but you know, different things happen to different people at different times in their lives. So, you know, but as long as you graduate from school and you do it within a 6-year time period, you know, you're not out of the loop, but preferably you want to make sure you get it in 4 years, because that's the expected outcome for going to college. All right, then it will break down your graduation rate based upon the number of the ethnic groups that you have. If you go to degrees, if you were to look at degrees now, degrees is also important, because what it offers, you got to understand something now. Because I like a school doesn't necessarily mean the school is for me. Meaning that you have to see what degrees they have offered, what bachelor's degrees they offer at the school. So for example, I may decide that I want to be a biomedical science student at Albany State University. Well, okay, okay, biological science general, there's 41, they have scholarships for that, for bachelor scholarships, but they do not offer it for masters, nor do they offer it for a doctoral program. So if you are intending to attend that school for your master's, then that school would not be for you, because as far as the master's program, they do not offer it. So if you were to look at, if you looked at business administration and management general, they have a bachelor's and a master's program. So you want to always be cognitive of the fact that you want to look at the degrees that they're offering at each particular school. All right. So if we look at the next tab, where we talk about majors, now this is where a lot of kids fall short. I like this school, but guess what? If they don't offer my major, then I can't attend this school. So for example, diagnostic medical sonography, you know, I can't do that because they don't have a bachelor's program. So if that's what I want to major in, well, this is not my school, because they do not offer that major. So you have to look at this tab too when you start making a decision about which school you want to attend. Okay, so we look at the next tab, athletics. We can click on that. If you were to, let's say I want to run track. I want to run track at this particular school. Well, guess what? I can run track. I can do track and field because it's offered. I can also do cross country because they offer it for me. But if you look at soccer, and I'm a male, then I don't have soccer as an option. It's only for females. Get you the information. So again, we appreciate you. We appreciate you staying in. And if you can stick with us for another 5 to 7 minutes, we actually have them down here right now. Trying to get us back online. But we appreciate them, and then we appreciate you all too. Because, you know, we have to get this done to make sure that the school system is working smoothly for our students. So the only reason why we're out today is because the technology had to be worked on today. It's not because we had a bad connectivity, it's just that they had to work on the technology today. So that's what they're working on. So the connectivity is going to be taken care of. I do know that I appreciate you all, and I hope that you all are enjoying the information thus far. Our goal is to make sure that we continue to give you good information, and that we support you all through this journey, this academic journey. I am pleased to let you know that I will be finding ways to try to get more people to assist you all doing it virtually. Because through our guidance department, our school counselors are going to be consistently working with you all. This is just one aspect of what we're doing for our Westover High School students. We have a lot of plans to ensure that our students are given great opportunities to be successful as freshmen, sophomores. But we really want to make sure that our juniors are looked out for in terms of preparing for the college experience. But more important than that, we want to make sure that our seniors are ready to take it to the next level. So we're going to do these type of activities to ensure that we keep all of you all ready so that you can be successful. I know parents that you all have done a great job thus far, because we see the proof is in the pudding. Because when we see the kids performing well academically, we know that you have done a great job of preparing them, because a lot of them are self-motivated individuals, and because they're motivated inwardly, that says a lot about what you have done for them. So again, we're going to continue to try to, motivate them. We're going to try to support you in the motivation of our juniors and seniors, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that they will be able to be college and career ready. Now, I'm going to kind of move forward a little bit. with the presentation, I guess I can move forward a little bit. We were looking at the website, and that was just it helped you out. And I'm glad we got through a lot of that, because there's going to be something called the top 8 colleges. And when we look at the top 8 colleges, is going to give you an opportunity to go through that data with each and every one of your students. You can look at how much a college costs, and we're going to share that information with you all. But it's going to require you to go through that same process that we went through. And so you would be able to use that so you can determine which college you want to go to, so you can make an educated decision. So we will be getting that to you shortly. But in addition to that, now we also want you to understand about the FAFSA. With the financial aid form, you have already filled out, hopefully, you have already filled out and received your FSA ID information. You may get, sometimes it comes quickly, sometimes it takes 24 hours, but in either case, you need to make sure that you fill one out and then your children fill one out, because October 1st, as we said, we're going to ask that you do your financial aid for your students. Now, as far as scholarships are concerned, I do have a list of scholarships that are available right now. The scholarship that we have about, I think it's about 10 to 12 that are current scholarships that you can apply for. One of them is the McDonald's. We have a Coca-Cola scholarship. And these are pretty good scholarships. And what they do, they give you an opportunity to start preparing now, so that you can see if you can get these scholarships. You may get them, you may not get them, and that's fine. But you always want to make sure that you apply for as many scholarships as you possibly can. If you apply for the scholarships, you will learn that, guess what? I may have been rejected. I may have not met the cut. And that's fine. My daughter, very bright young lady, and I can say that she's my child. But I can also say that because it's true. She's a very bright young lady. But you know what is also true? Although she was very bright, and she applied for several scholarships, and out of all those scholarships, she may have applied for, I think, 10 to 12, and she actually qualified for 2. Well, she received 2. She was qualified for them, but she only received 2, and that happens sometimes. And when you apply for those scholarships, you're going to learn that you may get them or you may not get them, but the effort is what you have to focus on. The effort is very important. Now in addition to that, we want to make sure that you understand that you should apply for some big scholarships, and you should also apply for small scholarships. Okay, so when we're looking at this information, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoints, and then I'm going to kind of like make sure that you can hear me and you can go through them. Okay. So we were on aspect number. We get ready on aspect number 5. Okay. And that's where we start talking about the ACT, the SAT, and the ASVAB. Now, we talked about that a little bit. And I'm going to see if I can share with you. I'm going to put my PowerPoint up, and I'm going to start sharing with you. And I hope that we can make this work. We're going to make it work, because that's what we do. Okay. Give me just a second. Yeah, we're working kind of remotely, but we're going to make it work. Here we go. We're going to make it work now. We're in different locations, but we're going to do this because we're going to make sure you get this information. Great. All right. So now, we're going to move forward on it. We're going to move forward with the ACT, SAT, WEF. As we're going to move forward, we talked about that a little bit, but let's talk about the cost. When you're taking the SAT and ACT, please know that the price is the same. It's the same, not no big difference, not a big deal. The only thing that we talk about a little bit, the ACT is kind of more like what you say in high school, and then SAT is more logical. So that's the difference between the two. And I just want you to talk about the scores a little bit. When you think about the scores, if you look at the scores on the SAT, on the ACT, right, you can get between a 1 and a 36. 36 is the highest score, 1 is the lowest score. And so you have five different categories. So if you have those, if you add up those categories, if you add up those categories, there's a possibility that a young man or a young lady can actually get a very low score, and that's not what you want, but that can possibly happen. Okay, so if they were to have if a kid were to have let's say the kid had on the English, the reading, the math, the science, so on and so forth, and you can get a 1 on each one of those, but we don't want that to happen. So in theory, you would want to have a 36, but 36 may not be a score that you may achieve. And if you don't, then that's fine. But if you get a 25 to a 28, somewhere in that neighborhood, a lot of times those are scores that would generally benefit you in being able to get a scholarship in a lot of different schools. Then in addition to that, we also have in reference to the SAT. Now, if you look at the SAT, the thing about the SAT is, you want to have like a 1,100, 1,200. If you get like 1,100, 1,000 on the SAT, those are good scores. A 1,200, would actually be an even better score, because with the 1,200, the 1,200 is going to actually give you an opportunity to do something called it's a nice little scholarship called the Zell Miller. But it also comes along with it also comes along with a SAT requirement, which is you have a 3.7. All right, so now what we're gonna kind of move a little bit on this, and again, we're gonna make sure you get this information, and we appreciate those of you who stay, and we have a nice little crowd, so we thank you all. We're gonna move to the next slide, where we actually talk about extracurricular as importance. We're gonna talk about the extracurricular importance. Now, a lot of times students, and we're gonna play a short video for you. We're gonna play a short video on extracurricular activities. And when we look at that information, I want you to just listen to this nice gentleman. And he's going to kind of like talk to you a little bit about extracurricular activities and why they matter and why they are important. Okay, so we're going to show that video to you in just a second, and it's going to talk about extracurricular. Now, a lot of times when you're in schools, we don't always take it upon ourselves to think that the clubs matter. We have to be in clubs. We have to volunteer. But please understand that when applying for colleges, they're going to look at all of the different activities that you were engaged in as a student in high school. Okay, so the gentleman that the video is going to play is going to actually kind of talk to you a little bit about why it matters to have. Why it matters to have an SAT score, why it matters to have extracurricular activities. All of those are going to be explained to you in just a second. And the great thing about what he is going to tell you is he's going to tell you, why it really matters. Why it really matters to be an individual who plays those sports, but not just being a sport, but also to have a leadership role in the sport. A lot of times you can have, sometimes parents, we ask our kids to play 5 or 6 different activities, be a part of this, or the student decide he want to be a part of this and he want to be a part of that club, that organization. Meantime, while he's being a part of all these different extracurricular activities, he or she is losing out on his or her GPA. The GPA is dropping. Just for the extent of saying I have a lot of extracurricular activities. It's not the amount of extracurricular activities that you're a part of, but the effectiveness that you have in it. So, for example, if I'm in a sporting event, and I'm one of many kids who are playing football or basketball or whatever, then, and I don't really have a leadership role, then it's good. But it's not just having that. Well, I'm also on the football team, or I'm also I'm in a club, I'm in the leadership club, or whatever the case may be. That's fine, but demand. Okay, aspect six. Okay, so if I'm in a club, that's fine, but I need to have a leadership role in the club. A vice president, the secretary. That always try to encourage your children and young people. Try to encourage yourself to engage in some kind of activity where you're actually taking a leadership role and not just simply being a member of. All right, and so we're like I said, we're working remotely and we're making this happen. Now we're in different locations now, but we're going to make it work because we want to ensure that this is going to be done with fidelity. But if your child is taking a club or volunteering or whatever the case may be, if they're going to volunteer, make sure they volunteer. Not just, you cannot volunteer for a family member. Sometimes people think that, I'm going to volunteer with my uncle, but that's fine. But your uncle cannot, it's unethical for your uncle, who you may, to offer you hours, because, that can be looked upon in a negative light. You want to do it in agencies where there's no family connection involved. So you want to make sure that's something individually. So what's going to happen right now, we're going to have Mr. McPhee. He is going to share that video with you right now. And we're going to go to that video. I want you just to see the video because what he says is very valuable. So we're gonna play the video for you right now. Okay. All right, so we're having a little difficulty right now playing the video, but we're gonna move forward. So we're gonna go to the part. We're gonna move down to aspect 7, but aspect 6 was just about sports and extracurricular. So like I said, I pretty much touched on that a lot. So we're gonna move on to the next level, and we're gonna talk about creating a resume now. What you're gonna need to know about the do's and don'ts of creating a resume. You want to always make sure you use action words. You don't want to say I did and I am going to and mine. You don't want to do all that. So you want to kind of like use action words, created, established, participated. Those are words that you want to use. Those are action words that you want to use. If you have anything that deals with like amounts, you want to use like your dollar signs. You want to use your money. You want to use your hashtag, whatever the case may be. You want to keep your resume easy to read. You don't want to use too fancy of a text. When you use too fancy of a text, sometimes it is too hard to read. And if it's too hard to read, then a lot of times, they're gonna put your resume to the side because it's too hard to focus on. And keep in mind that when you're doing the resume, a lot of people are looking at their resume. So there may be a strong possibility that if your resume is hard to read or is really not concise, that you may get moved to the side because of the things that you have done things like this. You included references. You have too much clutter in your resume. It's just not clear, and you don't ever want to do this because this is something that you should never do. You should never make sure that you should always make sure that you don't do things like this. You don't ever want to get a point where you give your personal information. There's no need for anyone to know about your age. They don't need to know your social security number. They don't need to know any of that information. They don't know how much you weigh. They don't need all that because if you're trying to do a resume for school, all you need to talk about is your academics and stuff that pertains to you being an individual who is seriously trying to be a part of that school or that job or whatever you decide to do. Now, Mr. McPhee, as he's doing a great job with us today, and he's getting ready to share with us a resume. He's going to go to right now. He's going to give us a template. We have a template of a resume, and we're going to, when you look at that template of the resume, I want you to kind of like look at it because, we're going to look at a blank one and we're going to ask that you download that resume. When you download that resume, you're going to see how that's just a general resume and how your child or your students, you can look at this resume and you can kind of like even use this as a template. It's good, but if you were to, once you download it, you can scroll down because when we talk about the education on your resume, one thing that you want to focus on is you want to focus on just that. You want to talk about your education. What's your SAT, your ACT score? So this is where everything starts coming together on your resume. Talk about the school in which you had your GPA, the city state that you're in. You want to talk about your class rank. If you don't know your class rank, that may be fine. You may find out on your transcript. But you can always make sure you can put your ACT and SAT score on there. It is a hard situation when you're applying for a school and then they ask for your SAT resume. If you don't have for your SAT or ACT score, and you don't have an SAT or ACT score for them to look at, then they don't know if you adequately are qualified to go to their school. So you need to make sure you're taking the SAT and ACT as soon as possible. So I know people say that you shouldn't take it but 2 times. I'm gonna say my children. My son took it 4 times. And he took the SAT 4 times, but when he took it 4 times, he was able to get a full ride scholarship in his school. Because he took it 4 times, they look at the accumulation of the scores. They don't just look at they look at your best score on each of those assessments. So when we looked at the English, the reading, the English and the math part, the reading and the math part. And so they're gonna look at the highest math, the highest reading on SAT, and they're gonna combine those scores. And then that's gonna be your real score. That's your super score. So you need to make sure that you don't get caught up and say, I'm gonna take it 1 time, so that 1 time I take it, it's gonna be an awesome time. No, it may not be. It may be a horrible time. It may be a horrible score. And if you just depend on that one score, now you're doomed. You don't ever want to be doomed. You want to make sure that you consistently keep preparing for the SAT. Go to the website, do the practice work, and just keep learning in school. Make sure you're preparing yourself. Make sure you're taking the rigorous courses. All that stuff matters when you start taking the SAT and the ACT. And then when you take the SAT and ACT, you want to make sure you can document on your resume. If we keep looking down, academic awards. Now, those academic awards are different. Like if you have, I became the, I got, a lot of times here at Westover, we had that awards night. Well, awards night, that's where you put away academic awards and achievements. That's where you put them in that category right there, that section. If you have a job, great. You put on the employment skills, and you'll put in there. You know, sometimes you may be going for your CTAE. You may not have a job yet, but these may be your skills. I haven't started working anywhere yet, but I do have skills, and these are skills. I'm a level 3, and whatever the academic, whatever your pathway is, you put it there. That's where you put it. All right, activities and awards. Now, this is where if I'm a star on the football team, and you know I scored 1,000. I'm the team captain. I'm the best. I have awards I have received. You know, Coach Downs have given me some awards because of this, or you know, I'm in basketball and Coach Pace gave me some kind of, you know, whatever the case may be, gave me an award. You know, I'm on the wrestling team. Coach Powell said, "Hey, I did this." You know, different things that you can do. This is where you can kind of put some of that information. All right. Now, if we go down, you know, if you go down to the volunteer activities, if you go down to that, now that's where you start saying, you know, I work for my uncle. I don't want to put that in there, but if I worked at a food kitchen, I was involved in a youth cleanup or something like that. That's where you put that. But we're now below that. If you look at it, you have a schedule. You have a scheduled template of a resume. So we're going to look at that now. So all of this stuff is not necessarily, it's a combination of a lot of stuff, but I want to show you how one would actually look if you were to actually fill out a resume. So take some time to look at this. Some, you know, and I was generic on some of it, but I want you just to see how it looks so that you can know what you need to do when you fill out your resume, because your resume can look similar to this. It's clean, it's concise. You're using the action words. You're not saying I, me, and all that other stuff. Mine, no. You're being very clear about information. You're making sure that your information that you're sharing on your resume is a good interpretation of who you are. But at the same time, it is making sure that it is talking about, you know, what you have done using the action verbs, and you want to make sure that it is if you look at your grade levels, you want to tell when you did these different events. You don't want to just say, you know, don't just say I was on the team. If you say I was on the team from 9th to 11th grade, wow, that means that you have some kind of witness. That means that you are engaged in doing an activity more than 1 year. Because a lot of times students just wait till their senior year to become a part of an activity. And then so I'm going to join this club, that club, and then so that no one cares. You only did it for 1 year. You did not show that you had any kind of consistent ability to maintain any kind of work ethics to stay with something for more than 1 year. That's if you're in a club or anything else. You want to make sure that you have done it for more than 1 year. 2 to 3 years, 4 years. 4 years is great. 4 years is outstanding, but 2 years, 3 years. If you don't do something for 1 year, that's good. You just did so you can put it on your resume. No one cares about that. Make sure you do something all the time. Juniors, you have time now. If you have not done anything in a club or organization, do it now. Sign up for it right now. Be a 2-year member of something. Make sure you do that, because that is going to be essential. But I just want you to see that resume, and I would advise you, mom, dads, parents, guardians, I would advise you, you know, I say I don't want you to be a helicopter. Now, don't be a helicopter. But sometimes we have to, you know, look at and focus on outside and make sure that if your child does not have a resume right now, and student, if you do not have a resume right now, do that now. This is a template, no excuses. You can get it done, and you need to get it done. And a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this myself, you do a lot of great things sometimes, and you may not even realize what you have done. Keep a documentation of what you're doing. Make sure you put it down there sometimes. So if you put it down on a sheet of paper, just write on your resume, just handwrite, and then you can type it in later. But make sure that you put these different items that you have done. It's not important that when you first do it that you put it in a category. You can always categorize it later, but you want to always make sure that you document everything that you're doing so that you will have it, so that when you get a chance to work on your resume, it's there. And all you have to do is type it in and you're set. So that's a little bit of what we want to talk about with the resume. But again, I would like for you, if you don't mind, I would like for you to take about 2 minutes to kind of like think of 2 to 3 minutes just to think about some things that you think should be on your resume. And I'm gonna give you 3 minutes to do that. And you're gonna go and put anything that you know is important to put on your resume. Go. 3 minutes to document everything that you know about yourself that should be on a resume. Let's do that now. So we're giving everyone 3 minutes now to kind of like just put some things about on their resume, even on their resume, just to, you know. And then so we're going to next. While you all are working, I'm just doing a quick talk, folks, so we can kind of, you know, budget our time a little bit. So so I'm thinking that we can then select a major. So there was a video for that now, and I want to kind of show that because it's telling how to select the major. And then, so we're gonna talk about, then we're gonna let them do the eight columns. Just look at the eight columns, give them a little time to do that. And then, so, I think we're going 9 to 10. So then I want you to talk about both things there. And then to that, so like I said, I think we're doing okay on time. And I appreciate everyone who is still, and I know they can hear me, but I want to, I know they can hear me, but I just want to make sure that we give everybody this opportunity and just thanking them for the fact that they're doing a great job with it. All right, so now we're going to, like I said, we're going to go to, it's not linked. You have to click on the bottom of it. And on the bottom of it is where the video plays. You still want it? Or? I'm not worried about now. I'm not worried about it. So we can, because that was the one I did fancy now. So, folks, we give you about another 1 minute now, 1 minute, and then we're going to ask you, because students should be jotting down real fast, different things that they know about themselves that they should do on a resume. And parents, what I want you to do is I want you kind of like to look at it. Look at it and see if what they have on there, because you can probably tell them some stuff that they don't even realize that they have done well. So I just want you to kind of like look at it too, to make sure that you are kind of in agreement that, these are things that you have done. And then you all can look at that later in terms of putting it on the resume and typing it in. All right. And then another thing I'm going to say to you now, I would advise you not to put a big picture of yourself on the resume. You don't need to do all that. I've seen a resume once before where someone had most of the resume was a picture. It was like on the left column was nothing but the picture, and then they had a little small print for the information. So that kind of resume, no one wants to see that. They don't necessarily need to see your picture. They need to see the quality of the person in which you are, and that's what your resume will do for you. So at this time now, we gave you about 3 minutes to do that. Now we're going to give you an opportunity to talk about selection of major. So we're going to look at selection of major right now. We're going to look at this quick video. I think it's going to be good for you to see this.
So I'm headed into my senior year and taking the SATs and starting the whole college application process, and I have no idea what I want to do, like for the rest of my life. I don't even know what I want to major in.
I didn't.
Me either.
Son, half of all students entering college are undecided about their majors. I was one of them, so don't sweat it.
So what happened?
Well, I didn't like English or writing too much in high school, or science, so I crossed those kinds of majors off my list. I was pretty good at math.
Not me.
Me either.
So cross math major off your list, but I kept it on mine. Then I asked my neighbor if I could shadow him at work one day. He was a radio station advertising sales manager.
Sounds, interesting.
Oh, managing the radio station and the deals were. The selling wasn't.
All right, so I'm gonna have
So
it so you
I
can
made
see
sure
when
the
it pop up.
college I
So
went
questions
to
right
had
there.
finance and
So open
accounting
your chat so
classes.
you can see the screen.
That
You'll
was
see it
math
pop
stuff I could
questions.
see myself doing.
Okay.
I still didn't land on a major till the end of my sophomore year.
My family spent a lot of time outdoors. They always told me I was too fascinated with the rain.
So you were a rain major?
Earth sciences. But I only figured that out after talking with my guidance counselor and going to the career center at my high school. I also talked with my science teacher and my family and friends about my strengths and interests. They said rain, that led me to earth sciences, and I took some journalism classes.
Isn't there just a place you can go to find out about all kinds of careers?
Well, there are a number of books on careers and online resources too. Contacting your local librarian can help you sort through them all.
I bet you knew you always wanted to be a librarian.
Hardly. I was a pre-law major first. Then I changed to sports medicine. I finally settled on biology as my major.
But you were a librarian.
Will Ferrell majored in sports broadcasting, and now he is a famous actor.
Son, you just got to realize that your major is not going to define your life, but choosing one that interests you will make your college experience much more rewarding.
So do your research. Go on informational interviews with people in careers that interest you.
Or just be an earth sciences major like me.
Thanks for the suggestion, but I'm not a rain person.
Well, there you go. You started narrowing your list already.
Narrowing is good, but there's no pressure to decide right now. There's a whole world of majors and careers out there.
And part of college is taking new classes and discovering what your strengths and interests really are. I really do love rain.
Okay, you had an opportunity to watch that, and so that I just want to show you that video real quick because now what we're going to do, we're going to actually move to the next aspect, which is going to be the college and university selection process. All right, and so when you select a major, you know you can decide on what you want to do, and whatever that major is, that's independent to the individual who would like to select that major. You should not, you should be willing to make a decision based upon your likes and things that you think are going to be very beneficial to you in the long run as far as a job. So now we're going to share with you right now the opportunity for you to fill out the top 8 colleges. Now, I understand that a lot of students at this point in time, especially seniors, you should have at least 8 colleges that you have pretty much decided you want to attend, at least 8. But guess what? We're getting close to graduation. Huh? Yeah, we're getting close to graduation because in December, when December comes, it's in the next year. And then at that time, by that time, if you don't watch yourself, most of the scholarships are almost gone. And so you need to decide which school you want to attend. So what's going to happen right now, parents, students, I need y'all to download this. And when you download this document, this is going to be very essential. Now, remember, we looked at that Together website. Everything on that Together website, that's why I went through it in detail with you, can be found to help you answer these questions. I need you right now. I need you right now to go through and at least choose one school, and then you're going to fill in all that information for one school. And again, now I intentionally put the major on the end because a lot of times that's where if the school does not offer you a major, and then you go through the whole process and it's affordable, whatever the case may be, and then you realize that guess what, it doesn't offer my major, then you can't even go to that school because it's not a school in which if you're set on that major. Now, if you're not set on a major, that's fine. But if you have a major that you're set on, then this is what I'm going to do. This is the only thing I'm going to do. Then maybe you need to reconsider another school. But I will say this to you: don't get stuck on one major. Please do not get stuck on one major because you may have something that may be closely related that you can look at, and that may be in line to what you want to do as a career. So again, I'm going to give you right now. We're going to give you approximately 5 minutes, over this and kind of go to choose one school and start working on this. I just want you to get a feel for it. I don't want you necessarily to finish the document right now. I want you to do that at your leisure, but I do want you at this time to at least make the attempt to kind of go through this and learn about the school. So start looking at this. We're going to give you 5 minutes to go over this right now. Begin. All right, now you all, I hope you had an outstanding opportunity of and I'm gonna put masks. We gotta be a little close right now. So you're not gonna see my face, which is fine. But I do want you to understand something, that we had a chance to go through that whole process of selecting 8 schools, and I'm gonna tell you something. If you notice now, you may found out that some schools may be more expensive than you thought they were, which means you're gonna need scholarship for them. Some schools you may have found out that, man, this doesn't offer my major. You may find out that room and board is it's not as bad as I thought it was. There's a lot of things that you may be able to find out when there may be a lot of things you find out when you're going through this process. But let me just say this to you: we're gonna move you into just understanding that we already went through this process. So if you look at those slides, this slide here, it kind of explains you what you need to do. If you just look at it real quick, you've already done that, and all you got to do now is just continue doing that for the other 7 colleges, or even more if you decide to. But I would say you should have no more than 8 at this time. All right, now paying for colleges and universities. Now that's going to be essential, because if you look at Georgia Futures, now Miss Griffin's going to talk a little bit about Georgia Futures, and she's going to elaborate a little bit on Hope versus Zell Miller, and then that's going to be important information for us. So here's Miss Griffin.
Okay. Hello again. Just want to make sure that everybody knows the importance of having an account with Georgia Futures. On Georgia Futures, you can get quite a bit of information as far as your Hope eligibility score or your Hope GPA. You can find that there, so you don't have to wonder. Because if you look at your high school GPA, it may not be the exact same as your Hope GPA, because your Hope GPA does not include, unfortunately, I say, like the PE classes, the chorus classes, and those type classes. So you have to make sure that you go to Georgia Futures to find all of that out. In addition to that, in addition to that, we want to make sure that you are aware that as for the academic eligibility from high school, you need to have at least a 3.0 GPA, and that's calculated based upon Georgia Student Finances information. And you need to make sure that you have your core curriculum courses, such as your English, your math, science, foreign language, and social sciences, including rigor courses. Okay, thank you all for working through our technical difficulties. We're trying to make this work. Okay, now as far as Zell Miller, you also have to have those rigor requirements. And one of the following: you must have a 3.7 grade point average, and that's calculated by Georgia Student Finance as well. And those are core curriculum courses. And or the test component, there's the 1200 SAT combined score with the critical reading and math scores, or 25 ACT composite score. So, like I said, make sure you use Georgia Futures to work for you, because most of the questions that you will have, the information is there. Even some of the scholarship information that Mr. Mackey mentioned earlier, that information can be found there, some of it. And in addition to that, other scholarships as well. So be sure to use that to your advantage. Now, there are a number of other scholarships that are under Hope, so under the Hope program. So if you plan on going to a technical school, you have the Zell Miller grant, the Hope grant there, and the Hope grant is a little bit different. So you want to make sure you check with those of you who are in dual enrollment now. Many of you, if you're going to Albany Technical College, you've heard us talk about the Hope grant, because many of you now, there's a cap on dual enrollment classes and the funding that's paid for. Some of you are having to tap into your Hope grant funds. So we want to make sure that we do our very best on all those classes that you're involved in, as well as the ones that you're in dual enrollment and the high school. That's going to be really vital, because those dual enrollment classes, those go along with you as well as your high school classes. So we want to make sure we take full advantage of every opportunity we have on the high school level, so that we are ready for the collegiate level. If you all have any additional questions, we will address those toward the end. So up next, Mr. Mackey.
Okay, so that was great information, Ms. Griffin. So the next thing in line is going to be the FAFSA, but we wanted to kind of talk. We have already talked to you about the FAFSA. The only thing we're going to tell you about the FAFSA at this point in time is we're going to share a link with you. We're going to share a link. That link is going to give you like a step-by-step what you need to do to fill out the financial aid form. It comes from the Georgia Futures website, and we're going to share that with you. And then once we share that with you, you can download it, and then you'll be able to help yourselves out with that. Let me give you the link to that. I'm going to give you the link in just a second here, and then so we'll be able to get that to you. But I want to make sure that you understand something, though. Before I give you that link, I want to let you hear from Staff Sergeant Stewart, because he's going to talk to you a little bit about possible scholarships and academics, how academic athletics and other scholarships that you may get through the military. So we're going to hear him talk to you a little bit about the possible scholarship offer.
All right, how's everyone doing? So the scholarship that Mr. Mackey was referencing is the NROTC scholarship, was the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps. Is essentially a scholarship for young men and women who are prospecting military officers. And so there's officer side and the enlisted side for the people who kind of have a familiarity with the military background. And so the requirements for the NROTC scholarships, it would be a 1,200 with the math and verbal combined for your SAT, a 22 for the ACT, or the 74 on the ASVAB. All these could be either or. And so if you had a 74 on the ASVAB and you haven't taken your SAT, then that would suffice. And so one thing to keep in mind is that the purpose of the scholarship is to essentially create an officer in the military. And so that's just one thing. At the end of it, there's a required service of 4 years. In addition to that, when we're talking about funding for college, a lot of people say the military pays for college, but it might not necessarily understand what that means. Essentially, there's two pots of money when it comes down to the budget that pays for college regarding the military and military benefits. The first one would be tuition assistance, and that would be if you're serving on active duty or in the reserves. Tuition assistance is essentially pays for a percentage, if not the whole thing, in certain situations when it comes to college. And that's basically where you're either on active duty serving, or you're in a reserve capacity serving 1 weekend out of the month. In addition to that, there's the post 9/11 GI Bill, which is a very powerful tool when it comes to getting an education debt free. It's essentially $80,000 to go to the institution of your choice. And the only thing that really would be required, is you just qualify for the school. So that kind of going back to what I was talking about, someone who might not have $40,000 to $65,000 at their leisure has an opportunity to still get that degree that they're wanting. And that's pretty much all I had to pass.
Okay, this is Ms. Griffin again. I'm just going to answer the question. I have a question from Ms. Peoples. But yes, that information is found on Georgia Futures. But again, I will repeat, as far as the Hope GPA is 3.0, and we want to make sure that we get some rigor courses in there. So we do encourage our students, because a lot of times our seniors, when they get to be seniors, they want to just take PEs their senior year and think it's okay. But if you're depending on which college you're going to, well, any college actually, they want to know that you are going to put forth some effort, and you don't want to just be, just be lax. So, but yes, that information is found on Georgia Futures.
All right, so now if you look at it, we just shared two items with you. The first time that you would share was the FAFSA. So that's a step-by-step guidelines of what you need to do in order to fill out your FAFSA. So that when you get to October 1st, you already have your FSA ID number. Now all you got to do is just go step-by-step on how to fill out the FAFSA. It would guide you through it. So that's a nice little form we want to make sure that each one of you had. In addition to that, You also have on there a scholarship. Those are possible scholarship, available scholarship that you and your children can start doing. Juniors and seniors, you can start working. Well, it's not juniors, but seniors, you can start working on those scholarships at this time. And parents, you can ensure that they meet the deadline. So those are some scholarships that you can possibly decide to look at. So those are two things that we wanted to make sure that we share with you, because we know those are very important. So at this time, we want to make sure that you give you a second just to look over those. And make sure that we give you a couple of seconds to look over, a couple of minutes to look over those, and make sure that you look over those scholarships and possibly start filling them out as soon as possible, because that's going to be very essential for you to do that. So please make sure you just look over those scholarships for us real quick, and also make sure that you everything that we have shared with you today. Make sure that you download it, and I will ask you to just put everything that you have said, all those items that you have downloaded, put them in a folder, and just label them as senior information or junior information, or college preparation information, whatever you want to call it. But I would do that, because then what's going to happen is you'll have all this stuff at your leisure. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to move forward with the PowerPoint, and we're gonna talk about application and admissions process. And what we're going to do, we're going to play a nice video for you, and this is going to explain a lot of information for you. But we're gonna talk about essay real quick. As far as the essay is concerned, we're going to let you look at that. And then after the essay, we're going to give you the application process, and we're going to be almost done. We just want to make sure you see this, because this is important information. This is what you need to think about writing a college essay.
First and foremost, when looking at essay, we're going to be looking at things like their ability to write well and their preparation for college. But we're also using that information to kind of see things like their resilience. Admission officers are trying to get their ability to write well and their preparation for college, but we're also using that information to kind of see things like their resilience and their love of learning and their intellectual curiosity.
I always tell a student, if you had the chance to come meet with the admissions committee and present yourself in person, would you want to do it? And without fail, students say, yeah, I'd love to have that opportunity. And when I ask why, they say because if they were able to get to know the admissions committee would want to admit them because they would know them and they would get to know what they're about and what makes them unique and special.
The essay is really neat in that it's one of the only places in the application where they have complete control, where they can write about the things that they've been involved in, the things that they've done.
One piece of advice I would give to every student is to ask someone who knows them a little bit to read their essay and to tell them what impressions they have of you after reading the essay.
I think the essays that work best are actually quite simple. I think students get really caught up in thinking that this essay has to encompass your entire life and it has to be groundbreaking and publishable quality. And that's a lot to ask of a high school student. So I always advise students to stick to the simple things that you know. And the essays that stand out the most in my mind are about simple things, very everyday topics.
I have seen some amazing essays about things like students walking their dog or even their bus ride to school.
I think our hope is that if a student were to drop the essay on the floor of their high school and someone were to pick it up, it didn't have your name on it, that they'd say for sure, oh, I know that this is so-and-so's essay because it speaks so much about your voice and your experiences and your perspective.
I think my favorite essay that I've ever read came from a student in the Midwest, and he wrote about working at a fast food restaurant. And he wrote about how people were treating him as they went through the drive-thru and how he was treating them back. He called himself an undercover anthropologist, which admittedly was a little nerdy in a Brown sort of way, but I liked his essay because I was able to see what he was seeing and feel what he was feeling. So for the purposes of the application, where we as admission officers are trying to get to know the applicant, that's a great essay.
It doesn't have to be an elaborate item, but what it has to be, it has to kind of tell a little bit of who you are. As they said in the video, and I want you to see that, because you need to understand that they don't know you. So your essay is going to identify who you are, some of your strengths. It gives a personalization of who you are. So make sure that when you write an essay, if they ask you why you want to attend college, you can say something like, when I was a little child, I had no one in my family, whatever the case may be, like, no one in my family has ever done, went to college before, and I know that education is important. Just make it a personalization about who you are. Be honest about it. Don't make something up now, but just make sure you're honest about the rationale and the reason why. So always do that when you're doing your essays. Now, the next thing that we want to look at is going to be very important. It's going to start talking about the application process, admissions. You're going to look at the admissions process first, and then we're going to let you look at that, and then we're going to discuss it briefly, and then we're going to give you some more information.
Hello, my name is Janai Down. I am one of the Associate Directors of Admissions here at Purdue University Undergraduate Admissions Office. In this video, we're taking a behind-the-scenes look and explaining the admissions process. So, okay, you send us your application, what's next? Once you hit the submit button, your application and along with any supporting information that you may have submitted on your behalf, letters of recommendation, for example, they will match up in cyberspace and be delivered to our application system. Once the application is complete, you will see on your application checklist that all required items have been received. And at that point, your application goes through an initial review. I should mention that right around our November 1 early application deadline, there's often a lot of anxiety, worry about whether or not your application was completed in time. So we've actually added a message directly to the application portal. Shortly after November 1st, all freshman applicants who met the deadline will see the confirmation message when they log in to check their application status. So what is the initial review? Well, first we confirm that what the system is telling us is true. Primarily, we're looking to confirm that your application really is complete and that you've met our minimum criteria for admission consideration, like the minimum high school coursework requirements, for example. It's during this review that we may notice things like an applicant who didn't provide a complete list of their senior year courses, or we may come across some unclear information. If this happens, we'll contact you to get the necessary information as soon as possible. Once your application clears the initial review, it moves on to a second review, more commonly called committee review. The Purdue Admissions Committee is made up of about 30 people, and all of us review applications. You should know that all applications are reviewed by actual living, breathing people. We don't have automated systems. In fact, if you visited campus or talked to a Purdue representative at your high school or college fair, it's likely you met a member of our committee. We wrap up most of our high school visits and college fairs in early November and return to campus so we can start evaluating your applications as soon as possible. The way this committee works at Purdue is that we have teams who concentrate on applications for specific Purdue colleges. So it's not like all 30 members are reviewing all applications. Our team specialize. They know what it takes for students to succeed in majors or colleges to which they have applied, and they know how competitive the overall application pool is for that program. In their evaluation, the admissions committee is answering two primary questions for each application. First, is this student academically prepared to succeed in the major they want? If the answer to that is yes, we move on to the second question. And is this student a competitive candidate in the context of the entire applicant pool for this program? So, committee review is when we re-review your academic credentials, read your essays, and read your why Purdue and why this major answers. We also look at other information you may have provided as part of your application. Letters of recommendation, for example. This is a stage of the process where we sometimes need to make difficult decisions. Some of our programs receive way more applications for qualified students than they can accommodate. These are applicants for whom the answer to the first question is yes. We do believe they are academically prepared to succeed in the program they want. But now we have to consider the overall pool of applicants, all the students who have applied to the same program, and make those tough decisions based on the space each program has. This is one of the reasons we want you to choose a first and a second choice major on the application. If you're a good student who can succeed at Purdue, we want to be able to consider you for a different major if we cannot admit you to your first choice primary major. That way, if you have additional academic interest and really want to be at Purdue, a backup plan is built into the application itself. If we can't admit you to your first choice, that's what we'll do. But if we can't, your application will be evaluated again for your second choice by the admissions committee that specializes specifically in reviewing that type of application for that program. When we're evaluating your application, we do something that is called holistic review. This is a fancy college admissions term that simply means we consider all of the information you provide and make a decision based on the context of you as an individual. For example, we know that some schools have way more AP or honors classes, dual credit and international baccalaureate courses than other schools. So some students just don't have the same access to these as others. We also know that some students have responsibilities at home or work that may limit their ability to participate in a number of school or community events and activities. When we're reviewing your application, we get to know your background, your context, so that we can make our decision based on your individual circumstances. That's what holistic review is all about. Once the committee decision has been made on either your first or second choice major, the application moves on to a final review. In this review, the most senior level members of the admissions committee will evaluate other committee member decisions and either confirm them, or if they notice something that was missed, send them back to the committee so that they can reevaluate and possibly change their decision. Going back to committee doesn't happen very often, but it's a good final check to make sure nothing was overlooked. Once the committee's decisions are final and confirmed, your application is staged for release on the designated release date so that you can review your decision and decision letter within the application portal. We set our application deadlines well in advance of our scheduled release date, so that can give your application the individual attention it properly deserves. Around the same time that the admissions committee is evaluating applications for admissions to Purdue, scholarship committees and the Honors College are also evaluating applications. For scholarships, there are committees evaluating students for university-wide scholarships, which are those that are awarded regardless of your major or college. There are also scholarship committees within specific colleges that are reviewing applicants to their programs for their specific scholarship dollars. In the Honors College, the selection committee is evaluating the applications of all students who answered the Honors College question on the admissions applications. These committees have access to all of the information you provided when you applied to Purdue, and except for those scholarships that have very, very specific criteria, are also taking a very holistic approach to their evaluations and decisions. So that's what's going on behind the scenes at the Purdue Office of Admissions. We hope that by knowing a bit more about how this process works, it'll ease any anxiety you might be feeling as you wait for your decision on your application. Just know that real people are looking at your application, and we're looking at it at least 3 times. We want students who have a desire to learn and who can succeed at Purdue. If that's you, we want you to be a Purdue Boilermaker. Thank you so much for watching. Do you have any suggestions for future videos? If you do,
okay, now that was if you look at that, and I want you to see that because that kind of like puts everything in a nutshell. I mean, you have to start out as a junior, as a freshman, sophomore. You have to make sure that you're doing well academically. You have to make sure you put in the hard work in high school for those 3 years, and then as you become a senior, the hard work doesn't stop. You continually work hard, and you make sure that you continue to put forth effort. And then in addition to that, you then go through the application process. But before you can do that, you have to make sure you have a resume. You have to make sure that you have a quality GPA to put on your resume. You have to make sure you have taken the SAT to ACT. You have to ensure that all those other things you have done, you have been involved in academic events and athletic events and clubs and organizations. You have had 2 people write a letter of recommendation for you. You have made sure that your transcript will represent you by having quality grades. All those things that you must do beforehand. And then in addition to that, you have to make sure that you fill out the financial aid form. You have to make sure that you start looking up for scholarships. Everything that we have given you today was for the extent to ensure that you are ready and prepared so that you can be a quality college and career ready individual. So that last little video that we showed you, and it talks about the majors. So majors are important. So all of this information that you shared was shared with you today. all come together as to say, in order for you to be a successful student, in order for you to be a success outside of the high school realm, you have to make sure you start preparing adequately. And juniors and seniors, it goes by fast. Seniors, it goes by faster than the juniors. And please know that you have to prepare adequately. And I ask that you continue to work hard in school. I ask that I ask you to fill out the scholarship information now. I want you to make sure you get your FAFSA done as soon as possible, which is October the 1st. You have a heads up right now. So please do not disappoint yourself, juniors and seniors, by not being prepared to go to the next level. Whether you're going to college, whether you're going to the military, whether you're going into, the career world. I'm gonna be honest with you, I never cared. In my 20-some years, 26, 27 years in education, I have never worried about which one the kid goes to. We want to prepare you for, college, and we want to prepare you, but at the end of the day, we just want you to be successful. We want you to move on to a career that's going to cause you to be a successful individual who is able to move on and be a successful person, and whether he's going to college, whether she's going to the military, whether he or she's going to the career world. You have to have quality academic status no matter where you go, and you need to be prepared, and you need to prepare yourselves adequately throughout your 4 years of high school. So juniors, I see a challenge to you. Make sure that you do not forget to start taking those rigorous hard courses. Make sure you take those courses that are going to challenge you. Make sure they don't necessarily be hard, but they got to be rigorous. You have to make sure they put you in a situation where you are going to be challenged, and that you're going to take those extracurricular activities so you can have at least 2 years in them. You want to make sure that you are participating and practicing on your SAT and your ACT. You want to make sure that you're getting yourselves ready for the next level. And seniors, if you have not taken your SAT, ACT, you need to sign up now. We have great counselors here at Westover High School, and they're waiting on you. But if you need a waiver, they are here for you. All you have to go is come and see, contact them. You can't come see them, because of the pandemic, but you can definitely get in contact with them, and you can email them, and then they'll be glad to assist you. But whatever you do, make sure that you are prepared. So right now, we're going to look at questions and answers. I hope that you all have enjoyed this today, and we do apologize for the technical difficulty with the technology aspect of it, but we're gonna thank you. We're gonna thank you for being a part of this. But before we do it, we're gonna ask you to do a couple of things. We're gonna have a survey that we want you to fill out at the end, which we're gonna do right now. But there's a question out there that says, when should you fill out the FAFSA? Your senior year. You only can fill out your senior year. You don't want to fill out before your senior year. So just fill out your senior year. Now we're gonna ask that you now look at the survey. We're gonna share it with you. We're gonna ask that you fill out the survey, and then while you're filling out the survey, we're gonna just say thank you again for your participation. We do apologize for all the technical difficulty issues, but I would say this to you: our belief is that we continue to move forward. We have to be determined, and we have to be dedicated and disciplined, as we were today. There's a question: what if you didn't get a chance to take the PSAT? That's okay. If you did not take the PSAT, that does not stop you from taking the SAT. You still take the SAT. The PSAT is just an opportunity for you to be qualified for national merit scholarships. So if you did not take the PSAT, you still can take the SAT. That is not a roadblock that will stop you from doing that. So what we want you to...
Mr. Mackey, I would like to add one thing. This is Ms. Griffin again. I want to remind students that if you are to, if you request a waiver for the SAT, once you have taken the SAT test, in your My SAT Benefits, you will find 4 fee waivers for college admission. So be sure to email me at kimberly.griffin@docoschools.org, or simply call the school. Again, that is kimberly.griffin@docoschools.org. But you can reach out to any of the other counselors as well. We do have those waivers. I will simply once I email you the waiver, you can send it back to me, and I will send those codes back to you as well. So just simply make the request, and once you make the request, we'll get that information to you.
Okay, thank you, and awesome. So I'll tell you what we're gonna do, Ms. Griffin. Okay, I'm gonna say it to you again. Professional school counselors, it goes on stated. I mean, they're doing an outstanding job, and we appreciate everything they're doing, and like the input that you're getting is great. Someone asked me about a a recording. Now, if the recording, we're trying to see if we can do that, because remember, our intent was to make sure that we give all of you all the information. So we're going to probably provide the recording, but because it was kind of separated, we're going to have to find a way to put it all together. And then so we'll get back to you. So what I can ask you to do is email me if you're interested in receiving a recording, and then we can go that route. So just email me, and I'm probably going to put on if you go to my Facebook page, if you go to the website that the Together website, www.togetherinfo.weebly.com, we have a YouTube channel. I would probably put on the YouTube channel so you can probably access it from there. But again, email me and then we can get it for you there. But please make sure that you are filling out that survey, and we want your honest opinion. And purposely we made it anonymous, because I want you to be honest with us. And we do know the technical part, but we hope that we share some quality information for you all today. Now, someone asked, well, if we can't get the recording, we're going to hold up. We're going to make sure we try to get you the recording. But in addition to that, the links, yes, we're going to provide you again. Email us, and we'll email and say, Samuel.Mackey@docoschools.org. You send me that email, I'll provide you with all those links. We're going to give you all those links. So we want to make sure that you got everything today. And those of you who actually were here and you stayed, we really appreciate you. And I'm going to tell you something now. You know what? Through the Together organization, now we have 18 people here, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna do something special for you all who stay, because we want to make sure that we thank you. So, the 18 people who stayed, I need you right now to send me an email. We started out about 50, but we done 18, and that's okay because we are technically. But what I want you to do now, I want you to send an email to me right now, and what's going to happen is we're going to put your name in a drawing for a $20 gift card. But you got to email me right now. And only the 18 now. I know my 18. I can see it now. So we appreciate you now. But you just make sure you do that. We need you to do that right now, and then we'll take care of it. We're going to make sure you get you. It'll be a virtual card. It won't be a in-person card. We want to be respectful of the pandemic. So you do that right now. Fill out this survey, and and then once we do that, we'll give you about another minute or two, and we're gonna say thank you again, and we're gonna say Barbara, if you have any other questions, we'll be glad to answer them. You can put them through the chat right now, or you can even send it. But before we go, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to 3 other additional people. Mr. McPhee, through all of these technical difficulties, did an outstanding job of keeping us afloat to the best of his ability. So we got to understand, people are talented in many ways. See, Mr. McPhee is not just an outstanding chorus teacher. He's not also an outstanding singer. We learned today that he's also an outstanding technician, because he had to do a lot today, and we appreciate that. We have Staff Sergeant Stewart. Staff Sergeant Stewart, he's a recruiter, and I'm going to be impartial. I should be impartial because Staff Sergeant Stewart is a Marine. I'm a former Marine. We're always a Marine, so y'all was a Marine, but that gentleman does a lot for our school. He's always trying to support us, and he talks to our students, and he's always trying to, give back to the community. And today he came here today to offer support to families of Westover High School students. We appreciate that. So he's a great guy. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's a great Marine. All right, and last but not least, we have Miss Griffin. Miss Griffin, she gives of herself all the time. She gives of her time, and she loves to work with the students here at Westover High School. She always does that, and we appreciate her for the fact that she does that. Whether it's working with the Auburn Technical College students, whether with the parents at Auburn Technical College, whether it's just working with the general population here at Westover High School. I want you to know that Westover High School is a great family. I'm coming to you all today as Mr. Mackey, the Together organization president guy, but I am a diehard fan of being a member of the Westover High School family. This is a great school. We have great people, staff members. We have a great principal, Mr. William Chun. We have a great school here, and I want you to know something. We're gonna continue to support our mamas, our daddies, our sons, our daughters, our students, our juniors, our freshmen, sophomores, seniors. We're going to support all of y'all, and this is just one opportunity. And I will say that we probably will share this with Miss Shelton, so we may get out to the family. So we're going to make sure that we do as much as we can to offer support to our, and I promise you now, we're probably going to do something similar again. I know we may not do the same one, but we're going to do more of these type of activities for our parents and our seniors and juniors, and even for our ninth graders and our 10th graders, because we want you to get information and we want you to be prepared. Also, please do me a favor. Again, if you have filled out that survey, we appreciate you. We can you can leave the meeting. I'm not going to leave the meeting until the last person leaves. Okay, so you all have a great day. I hope you enjoyed it, and you all have a nice time. But we're here until you leave. If there are no more questions, again, we'll say
job well done, faculty and staff.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Can you put the link over in the chat box so we can just click it? Okay.
Yeah, we just did. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Mackey, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, me and my mom, we're using my school laptop for this. So everything is under my school email. And I'm trying to send some of the links and some of the documents to myself or like my mom, but it's not working. Is there a way that I can scoot it over to a different?
We'll work on that for you, because I mean, because what it is it's outside doing the county, and they sometimes we'll take care of that. Just email me, like I said, just email me. Okay. Email me at samuel.mackey@docoschools.org, and I'll get you the information. We'll get you all the information. We'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.